Tonight, we're going to talk about the Genie Plus. What happened? Was it a success? We don't know. We're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to talk about some parks news, and we're going to talk about Lost Epcot, things we miss from our favorite park, up next on ParksCenter. Welcome to ParksCenter for October 24th, 2021. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Tonight we are going to be talking about Genie Plus launch this week and Lightning Lane and all those fun things. And we want to talk a little bit about first impressions because we've been talking about it a lot. We've been saying what we think was going to happen, and now it's out there and we know what's happened. And to talk about it with me, we brought some friends. First of all, Coach Layton, how are you? He's muted. That's how he is. He is so muted.
I'm so excited that I'm muted. No, great to be here. Excited to talk to everybody tonight, and let's get this party started. Game on. Let's go.
And Kamila.
Hi everyone. Happy Sunday.
And in the I'm gonna call the Sivako Square. It's Desi.
Sivako.
Yeah. Did I steal your thunder a little bit? Sorry. Felt like I had to. I
was
never
going to say something else, but then I felt obligated to say Sivako.
I was going to say, you forced her into it, Rob.
It's fine. We're all fine. Everything's great. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. So this week, Lightning Lane and Genie Plus, and Genie for that matter, launch. We were all expecting horrible things. And we had a few hiccups along the way as well. So one of the things that I think was interesting is our own Eric Morton decided to do a video to let Genie tell him how his day should go. It's up on wdwnt.com and on our YouTube channel. You can check it out later. But he had some interesting adventures, letting the app tell him what to do. And honestly, it's not far off from what I expected to happen here. And Kamila, I want to go to you first because I think you've been kind of a little bit of a fan of the idea of what base Genie can do. What did you think about this, or what you've heard about about this?
So you're absolutely right. I had hope that Genie was going to come in and maybe solve some problems, help with people. But I'm going to be honest, I really think this first week was a mixed bag. And there were some definite warning signs. We saw a lot of things that were not great when it comes to how it actually functions for people who are trying to use it. The fact that Rise of the Resistance was selling out for some people throughout the week. I had some fellow travel agents and also some guests who were there this week, and the feedback I got was really mixed. There was one family that loved it the first day they were using it in Magic Kingdom, but Hollywood Studios, which is the park that I think a lot of people think that this could work really well in, or that's the day to buy Genie Plus, it was horrible for them. And by noon, everything was sold out.
You know, if somebody's coming down for their once-a-year trip I don't think that, for me personally, it's worth it, just because I go to the parks all the time. So, you know, if I can't get to something, I'll just go next week. Not a big deal. I really feel like all it is a cash grab. They could have implemented this system and done it for free, and everybody probably would have been happy with it. But just because of the way that they did it, where they took something away, something that was included with a base ticket and with annual passes, and now is just another upcharge, does not sit right with me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That is one of those things where, like, just because the technology works or it doesn't work, the fact, the base problem is still the same. The taking away the free fast passes and putting in the paid.
Yeah, but it seems like it works very similar to the old paper fast pass way.
Yeah, except for the only way to get it is if you're the person that's paid money for it. And honestly, and again, I think we're still lagging a little bit here, so I apologize. Hopefully the audio is coming through okay, though. One of the things that I look at with this, though, is that I was really hoping that people would go in and go, hey, you know what? I don't want to spend money on this. I'm going to show Disney that I'm in solidarity with all of my fellow guests, and we're not going to do this. And obviously, that did not happen. With Lightning Lane especially, people were, Rise of the Resistance was sold out, and to the point where they had to give refunds and change their structure of how they were giving these away. I think we on this panel specifically were like, you know what, we're not going to do it. We're not going to give in, and we're not going to pay. So it's a little bit disappointing that didn't come to fruition.
I don't know if it's going to be like that long term, though, or if it was just like a lot of bloggers and vloggers out there. It's the first week, we've got to do it. Who won't necessarily be doing it in the long. That's at least what I'm hoping for. I don't know if there's a way to tell how many people bought Genie Plus, but at least with Lightning Lane, we know that Rise of the Resistance was selling out in the morning, right? I think by 9 a.m. one day. So,
right.
But with Genie Plus, they said they're never going to go. If every single person in the park bought it, they still wouldn't sell it out.
Well, that's so that everybody can get their much coveted Fast Pass or Lightning Lane for Turtle Time, Turtle Talk. For Turtle Talk is really where it all comes down to, and the rubber meets the road. There was somebody, and I forget where it was, but somebody hit. I think it was one of our folks. It was recommended something that I just thought, this is absolutely what I was afraid was going to happen. Something that like no one should ever get recommended. It might have been with like the Seas with Nemo and Friends. I don't know, which is a fine attraction, but there's never a line, and so.
Oh, it might.
Yeah.
I saw where someone got recommended, what is it, Tom Sawyer's Island, like in the morning.
I saw somebody get recommended at 9 a.m. Disney Junior Dance Party.
Nice.
Time.
Brian, we haven't given
Somebody
you
without any kids.
Yeah, Coach, we haven't given you a chance to weigh in yet. Go ahead and tell us what you think now that we're all back up and running.
Well, I think the best thing to do that Disney said, you know what, we're so good at tech, we're not going to launch just one new service. We're going to launch 3, all at the busiest time in the parks. That makes the most sense. Was there anybody alive that thought this was going to be rolled out smoothly? I think if you have a young family and the kids don't really know the difference and they want to go on a lot of those rides, there's some value to it. We're going to be going in that Thanksgiving little week, that area then. So it'll be interesting to see. We're kind of resolved the fact we're not going to ride a whole lot, so I don't know which way we're going to take it. But I think it's one of those things where, again, for us people that are watching this show right now and a part of this, weird family that we've built here at WWNT, we're definitely the type of people that we plan. We don't just show up and just kind of wing it. That's not really generally how things go. And I think Eric demonstrating what happens when you do quote unquote wing it was funny, but also kind of exactly what we all expected. I mean, his face on the teacups, I want to make that my screensaver. I think it's tremendous. But it's just one of those things where did anybody really think they were going to not make you walk back and forth across the park in the most ridiculous non-way possible? Mm-hmm. So I think there's like anything else, there's a lot of confusion. There's a learning curve to it. But I'm interested to see, like Desi said, what is it going to be like after the holidays? What is this going to look like in February? That'd be kind of interesting to see kind of where we're at that point.
Well, and know what? Go ahead, Kamila.
No, I just like something we have talked about as we've led up to Genie Plus is how this is kind of built and modeled after the Max Pass system at Disneyland. And what was interesting to me is to see how it functioned like in the parks here. And one of the things that really stands out to me compared to using this at Disneyland or Disney California is there are like parks like Hollywood Studios, where maybe there's just not enough attractions to really support something like this. And so when you see like Slinky Dog, you know, being one of the first things to run out, and Rise running out like when the park has just opened, those are things that we kind of were wondering, like, well, you know, how are they going to manage or navigate that? Because that's exactly what you would see with Max Pass also, which is like the most popular attractions. You had to get in right in the beginning of the day and try to get those attractions, and it would be for like at the end of the day. And so, you know, I'll be honest, like I'm going to give it a little bit more time, and I think this was definitely designed for people where Disney is like, this is like their once in a lifetime or, you know, once in a blue moon type of trip. I don't think this is for the everyday, every week person. And I think there could be value, but what we saw this week, I think there were a lot of issues. And even for myself, I was just going to blanket add it to all of the days for my upcoming trip. And after seeing how it worked, I was kind of like, do I really need this? Because most people who get it are going to say, I want it for Slinky Dog. I want it for Rise. And if that's gone by, you know, 9 a.m., then that's a really difficult sell. I don't need this for alien swirling saucers.
What? You don't need it for alien swirling saucers? That's crazy.
No shade. It's a cute ride.
At least Rise is one of those that's like, you can buy it one-off. Like, if that is your one ride that you want to go on, then you could do that for Rise. With Slinky Dog, I'm really surprised that they chose Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway to be one of the 2 lightning lanes at that park.
Which didn't sell out all week.
Right? Like,
right.
Why that one? I get that it's the newest one, but I'm sorry, it's definitely not one of the best ones.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too, because I feel like we're all surprised it wasn't Slinky Dog, because Slinky Dog Dash always has a longer line than Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And I just, I mean, I know that, like you said, it's newer, but it's the one that has a lower capacity. It's a longer line. People want to ride it. You know, it's got that re-rideability because of being a roller coaster. I don't get that at all. And you know, maybe they could have gone with 3, or maybe they just should have done those 2, or maybe they thought by making this like a premier attraction, it would get more traffic than it was getting before. I don't know. But Kamala, what you were talking about with Max Pass, I agree with you, and I loved Max Pass after I hated the idea of paying for it. I did love it because of the convenience, but the problem was, or is now, and I've mentioned this before, Max Pass included, you could still do free Fast Pass. Now you don't have that option. You either pay or you wait. That's it. There are no other options.
It included all the rides. It wasn't just all the rides except for the top 2.
Yep. No, that's a great point too. So, I mean, that aside, I think that, you know, we've talked about some things on the blog. If you've looked at wdwnt.com, great resource if you are planning to go to the parks and use this tool. But one of the things that they talked about, stacking your Fast Passes, or it's going to take me a while, just like MGM Studios. It's going to take me a while to say Lightning Lane. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right on the tongue. It just doesn't. So with Lightning Lane, you know, you can stack the same way that you could before, but the problem is you've got to like plan it out, you know, and Coach, you were saying like we're planners, but you've got to plan on like, you know, head on a swivel that day, because if it's like you got to find a time that's like, okay, find the hardest thing to get a fast or Lightning Lane for, and then I'm just gonna have to drink every time I say that. Find the hardest thing to get a Lightning Lane for, and then assume that it's gonna be at 6 o'clock at night, and then wait, and then stack the next one up earlier than that, and so on. You can't really pick your times either, which I believe, and Kamila, correct me if I'm wrong, the Max Pass let you choose your times, didn't it?
Yeah, it was more flexible in that way.
So that's another thing that I wasn't really expecting from this, is the not having the ability to choose your times, because it's going to really mess you up as far as like, this is, you know, the next thing I want to ride is I want to ride, let's say, Soarin', and so that's the one I'm going to get my Genie Plus for, and then it's at 6 o'clock, but also I have a reservation at Space 220 at 6 o'clock. So now what do I do? I mean, it seems like it's not as good as what Max Pass was, for all the reasons we've talked about here. So I mean, that part of it is a little disappointing. Somebody in chat asked about the disability access service. For the return times, and so far from what I've heard, that particular thing is not as big a problem as some of the others. Correct? Has anybody had any experience with that, or has anybody looked? Kamila, maybe.
Yeah, well, you can sign up for it now. Like, I think it's like online through the app. There's a way to do it that way, but I think other than that, it kind of works similar to what it was before. So for any ride eligible, you should be able to get a return time. So I think with that, the updates were just to try to make it easier for you to get access. So now you're not having to like go to guest services and talk to someone there. You should be able to sign up through the app for, you and your party.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Let me see if I can pull this up. So, in the app, there's this now, I guess, if you have activated Disability Access Service, it's in the app here. It comes up and it tells you what the options are, and you can choose them from here. I did think that was an interesting choice before, that you had to go to the attraction or guest relations to be able to book a DAS before. So I do think that is a nicer ability for people who have the Disability Access Service. That's one plus out of this system. I can't really fault anything the way that the DAS system works here.
Does it make it almost too easy for the frauds, though?
I don't know how you fix that, Desi. I honestly don't.
Yeah,
like,
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everything they've done in the past to try to make this something that is only for the people who need it, they've done. And I don't really know what else they could do to force out the frauds without making it just impossible for the people who need it. And so I think that that's where we are. I mean, we just need to be good citizens and not try to play the system. But on the flip side of that, aren't they really teeing us up to be not great citizens when they charge us for Lightning Lane and for Genie Plus and don't offer free Fast Pass? I think we all talked. I know Desi, you and I talked about it like on the first show. I know that you and Jill and I think we're all on the same page of, I don't hate not having Fast Pass in the park because yeah, you see the line and you know how long the line is, and aside from, say, Club 33 people or DAS, everybody else is the same, is equal. Everybody waits in the same line. You know how long that line's going to be.
It goes by quicker.
Yeah.
It did.
Pretty much this entire time, the posted wait time has always been longer than the actual wait time. Like, it will say that something is 50 minutes, and it usually takes closer to 25 minutes to get on. And that's probably because they see how long the line is, and okay, well, previously it took 50 minutes from this endpoint to get through the queue. However, there was no Fast Pass slowing down the regular queue. Everybody was just getting on. Everything was loading smoothly. And with this, you've got to pause the regular queue, let the Lightning Lane go by, and then the regular queue can start up again. So it makes lines longer, I think, than they need to be.
Yeah, Coach?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about, and this is sort of kind of off topic, but sort of on topic. What happens with when international travel opens back up and people from the UK and different countries come? Like, we're confused and we're here. What's that going to be like for somebody that's been here but hasn't been here in a bunch of years, and all of a sudden everything's been changed? So I almost feel like when that opens up again, we're going to end up having almost another sort of relearning experience for those guests coming in, because I know we saw that a lot of people were scanning in thinking that they had it. They don't understand that it's basically you have to come back at a certain time. They think, if I just buy Lightning Lane, I can just scan my band and go. And it's just like a learning process, and these poor cast members on the front lines are dealing with these people that are like, I paid for this, and they yell and they scream, and
right.
they're the ones that are taking the brunt of it.
Universal.
Right.
You just get on anytime you want, on any ride you want.
I was in Orlando TSA coming back, and TSA pre. You pay for TSA pre, and that's so you can skip the line or you go through faster. And so if you've flown out of Orlando late, you know that they kind of shut down TSA pre at like 7-8 o'clock at night, and we're standing in line and we're walking through and talking to one of the TSA guards, and when we're walking through talking to them, somehow it came up about TSA Pre, and he's like, TSA Pre are the most entitled people he's ever talked to. That then he's like, you know, you pay this money and you just expect you get to do whatever you want and blah blah blah. And I thought for a second about that compared to this, is if I'm paying you $15 to ride this attraction, I don't disagree. If you know, to Coach's point, if I've never done this before, but I have it in my app and it says I can get on this attraction. If I pay $15, boom, I paid $15. Let me walk through the line. Oh, sorry, folks, this is for like 7:30 tonight. It's 10 a.m. Sorry, you don't get to walk in right now. That is mind blowing. And again, like the talk about like a sense of entitlement. I literally just paid you whatever I paid you to get into the park, and now I paid, you know, all this money for Genie Plus, and now I found out that doesn't work, so I have to pay a little bit more for Lightning Lane for my family. We just paid $60, and you're not going to let me in until 12 hours from now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kamila.
I mean, the thing that stands out to me, like, I'm not surprised that Disney came out with some type of a paid fast pass option. You can't help but think they saw their peers, SeaWorld and Universal, and their options and how expensive they are. You know, I've seen Universal Express passes go for $280 per person.
Whoa.
And that's on top of your ticket. So, you know, and, you know, on a normal day, they can be $60 to $70 per person. And again, that's on top of your ticket, which is dated, so they can charge you more on days they expect to be busier. So I can understand Disney seeing their peers with these types of paid programs and saying, I want to get in on that. And, you know, when you compare it to Universal, I mean, you know, $15 is much reasonable than what Universal is charging and selling out on plenty of days also, may I just add. So people are absolutely paying it, and it makes sense. If this is your trip, you're trying to get a lot done in a short period of time. But I will just say this, having watched a lot of different people that I trust experience this firsthand this week, and then also, you know, posting about it and watching live streams, I'm not sure that this is an option that's going to work for Disney, because I feel like if you're going to charge people for something, they need to see the value in it. And if things are selling out before you even get in the park, and I already paid the money, and you're telling me, well, no refunds. I mean, even for me, who has no problem buying an express pass at Universal if it will get me what I want, I'm like, I'm not getting this, you know? There are other ways to get on rides if that's what I need to do, including just standing in line. So I just want to say, like, I'm not particularly hopeful based on what I saw this week that this is really going to work. They've got a lot to figure out.
Yeah, no, yes, absolutely.
And everything. I say that as someone who supported this. I was like, you know, I get it.
No, I agree. And you know what? Again, I think just the base Genie thing I had a problem with when they announced it at 2019 D23, the idea that it was going to suggest things to you, because we know that they're going to suggest things that are in their best interest to disperse people to other things.
A launching pad. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to send you to Soarin' and be our guest and all the good stuff. They're going to send you to, like, wait, Sunset Ranch? What? I don't know. No, I don't want to do that. I'd like, so I really am looking at this and going, I think that the base part of it I disagree with. Now, you know, there are some things that I've seen now that it's live that are kind of cool, but like the filters, that's okay, that's kind of neat. The castle cake, that was kind of cool. The audio tour thing, but like I just overall I just think it's not for me. And if
those filters, by the way, are free with Snapchat. Like the Mickey sitting on your shoulder, I have that for free with Snapchat. So there is no reason for me to pay $15
Pro tip
with Genie Plus.
This just in. So, but you know, Kamila, you mentioned Express Pass. Like the Express Pass that I get when I get a room at the Hard Rock Hotel that I use, and you know, I stay one night. I can use it for the day I check in and the day I check out. So I get it for 2 days. Sure. That's almost like, as much as they charge for the Express Pass, that's almost paying for the room if it's like two of us in there. And then when you go, I can ride Spider-Man, get off Spider-Man, ride it again, get off Spider-Man, ride it again. I don't have to wait till 7 tonight. I don't have to wait, you know, an insane amount of time. And part of that is supply and demand, right? There aren't those huge demand attractions right now at Universal, and the ones that they do, a lot of times they don't start you off on Express Pass. Sorry, Hagrid's isn't available right now for that or whatever. So I get that, but so I think Express Pass is a better deal overall, but it's still ridiculous that it's almost the exact same price you paid for your ticket. But aren't we sort of headed in that way? If I had to pay $15 for this attraction, $15 for that attraction, and $15 for for Genie Plus, I'm starting to get there. And so with many more restrictions, and to Coach's point, much more confusing. So when we go back into the idea of like, all right, we're paying for these things. Genie or Lightning Lane is selling out for Rise at $15. That's supply and demand. There's no more supply coming. The only other option is to raise the price, right? Or am I wrong on that?
Oh, don't give them ideas.
I don't
Disney
think
doesn't raise prices on things, Rob. Don't be making stuff up.
Am I wrong, Coach?
No, I honestly think that this is the way I consider Disney, any kind of Disney tech. Disney tech to me is when my parents need to figure something out on the computer, and they call it the computer and the internet, and like Disney's like, we got this great thing, we're gonna give you these filters, and then like over on the side there's like, yeah, they already have that on Snapchat. So it always seems like they're like 5 steps behind. I don't understand. It seems like everything's kind of rushed, and it is a supply and demand thing, and I don't understand why you don't consider ride capacity. That used to be like a thing, right? How many people can we get through per hour? What's our riders per hour, riders per cycle, whatever it is, whatever metric you want to use. And a couple people said in chat, like, it was funny, I forgot who said it, that this is the worst Genie since Will Smith. So I think there's been a lot of backlash. Not my joke. A lot. Good one, though. But it's one of those things where, like, clearly this is failing, and they need to make adjustments. The issue for me is, like, so one day I could pay 15 for something, and the other day I could pay 9. So you're jacking it up based on supply and demand already. And I feel like they started with 15, and then they're going to go to like 19, and then they're going to try to stay under 20. But it is going to move up. I mean, they charge more for everything, and like Tom said, still cheaper than a balloon. But I think it's one of those things where, like, at what point there is a breaking point, and we all talk about what that breaking point's going to be.
FYI,
he did.
Yeah.
But again, like, I think it's just one of those things that we have to see how it plays out, and I think hopefully they're smart enough to react to how things go.
So they are reacting. One of the things that they reacted on quickly was the idea that for the virtual queue, or for Lightning Lane on sale, they restricted it. Basically, they opened it up so that anybody who's at a resort could buy it. There was no longer that hold for non-resort guests, and that's the modification they made this week. And part of me gets that. I paid to come and stay on grounds, and this is my once-in-a-lifetime vacation with my family, and I don't, I want to ride Rise of the Resistance because it's my Star Wars dream come true, and I don't get to go because Desi wants to go for her 19th time to ride this attraction. She's rolling her eyes. It's probably more than that, isn't it? It's higher, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, all right, never mind. I don't want to know. So when you go to do that, I get why they would do that, but now we're in a situation that if you're not staying on grounds, you don't get even a shot at buying a pass anymore. I mean but that's a modification they've already made. They've said, hey, wait a minute, we've probably boxed out too many of our resort guests. We need to just open it up and let them, buy as many as they want to.
I get it, because it seemed like they were taking away so many of the perks of staying on property. I mean, these people are already spending a ton of money. Even for a value resort, you're spending more than you would at a really nice resort off property. So I get it, giving these people an incentive to stay on property, because if I have the same ability to buy a ticket and get a nice room at the Four Seasons for cheaper than a moderate at Disney World, then that's what I'm going to do. But if it's the Four Seasons or, Coronado, and Coronado I have the option of getting a Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance, then I would probably say, okay, I'll stay at Coronado.
So, okay, so one other thing I want to bring up before we end this topic, and this is not the end of this topic. We're going to continue to talk about it. We've talked about it leading up when they made the announcement. We all saw, it just seems like a cash grab. It seems like it's the wrong way to do this. It seems confusing. It seems unfair. There are a lot of those things, those words that we've used to describe this process that, there are some people who are like, hey, this is great. Now I can do this, and that's fine. But I do think that there are a lot of more people getting left out in the cold than there are people benefiting from this. That's just my opinion. So that's something that we talked about early. Now that we've seen it launch, I think from a technical standpoint, it actually worked fairly well from a technical standpoint. But I do think, to your point, Coach, about like launching 3 products at once, Genie Plus, and Lightning Lane, and they all kind of overlap with each other. I can't imagine a more confusing thing. I actually had my mother-in-law tell me, I guess we can't go back to Disney because it's going to be too confusing. And I was like, I got you. We can, I'll get you there. That's fine. But it is really one of those things that it is so confusing and so overwhelming. And you just add in the other changes they've made, like the park pass system, or the park reservation system, which, like, again, another layer to all of this. It's too much almost. But so we will continue to talk about this as it changes and as we see more problems and all of that. And we hope to get some of your feedback in the comments when you're watching this and see what you think about it. But one last thing I want to talk about with this is, and I know Tom talked about this when it first launched, and I think, Coach, you just kind of touched on it just now, is capacity. We've got some other cool attractions coming in Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, the Tron Light Cycle Run. These are going to be in that category of Lightning Lane paid. They've got to be, because they're going to be these very highly touted attractions, right? I don't see either of these having great capacity. These are not 2 attractions that look like they're going to be any better in capacity than what we see with Rise of the Resistance. Where are we going to be with this? And I'm going to throw this one to you, Kamila. Where are we going to be with this once those attractions launch? I mean, will this system right now work with what's going to with those when they open?
Will this system still be here when those others open? I genuinely wonder. Look, it was just the first week. We still have probably a lot to learn, but it wasn't a great first week. I mean, I don't think there's any getting around that. When it comes to these new attractions, it's hard to know. I mean, it certainly doesn't seem like Disney is going to be set up, but maybe by then they'll have enough information about how all of these work that they'll be able to better manage all of it. But I mean, again, like, just the fact that popular attractions can sell out so quickly, that's a little scary. But then maybe having these additional attractions open up just continues to help push people around. And hopefully they're not letting so many more people in the parks that it just does away with, any of those benefits of having a new ride.
You know what? That's a great point, that it will hopefully spread some people around. But at the same time, the attraction that Cosmic Rewind is replacing was a people eater, whether people were going to see Ellen or not. That was a people eater. That was like, load them up, move them on, load them up, move them on. That was huge. And so this one that they're replacing it with, not really going to be that high capacity, but it's better than being a construction site, which it has been for so long. So that's good. But looking back at the other attractions that have opened up over time, I haven't seen any of those attractions lose lines. So, we talked about Slinky Dog. We talked about, obviously Rise. We talked about, like,
Flight of Passage,
Frozen, the Seven Dwarfs. Most of the ones that are on Lightning Lane, these things have been open for years and are still huge lines every day. You either, in the past, would either have a fast pass, because it's in the past, I can call it that, a fast pass for Flight of Passage, or you weren't going to ride it that day. That was pretty much how I felt about it. Was I either had a fast pass or I wasn't going to ride it, because the line was going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, and at least you could still wait in line, right? But now these things are getting to the point where the lines just don't go away for some reason. Like, I haven't seen any of them die out. I mean, maybe Soarin' and maybe Toy Story, but guess what? They built extra tracks for both of those and theaters for both of those. So, I mean, they knew that their capacity was messed up on those. They made them better, but they're still longer lines usually than they should be with, how old they are and adding that stuff. So I hope that that's the case, that they spread out, but I don't know that I feel confident that that's going to happen. But, again, we want to get
the live entertainment too, though. You don't have the live entertainment, so you don't have these big giant stadiums of people that you can just shuffle in, take a break in the heat and all that other stuff. And the lack of parades, right? The people don't realize. Remember, we all know the parades, everybody would just sit out there for hours on end and get their spot until somebody would just walk in front of them, and it's like, hey, I've been sitting there for 2 hours. But people would park out for that type of stuff, and that is something that you could always get on rides at that time. Oh, that's when the parade's coming. The ride lines are going to dip. It spreads people out. And I think that's the issue they have right now, is that they've lost the parades, they've lost the live entertainment, and they've not really thought about the live entertainment in terms of helping increase capacity with space they already have. I don't have to build a new ride. I can just put a show in there. So that, to me, I think is a easier solution. Whether or not they're going to make that route or they're going to go that route, I think is what they should do. It's the cheapest route. JPEG, are you listening? It's also good for the entertainers. So something to think about in terms of that. I think it's something people are yearning for, and it's what separates Disney from Six Flags. So.
Yeah, I mean, some of the larger things like Fantasmic, like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is coming back. We don't know when. Nemo, again, that's coming back. We don't know when, in some way, shape, or form. But all of these things are, like you said, there are other things for people to do other than stand in line. And I think that since they're either standing in line or standing in the pathways, I don't know that I've felt the parks feeling as crowded as they have in this amount of time. Like, I don't remember the last time that it felt like this. And all of these, paddles that they introduced that says Lightning Lane here, right? That, again, does not speak to that idea of, that speaks to me that you've oversold those. It's too crowded. If that line, that was okay with Fast Pass because that was free. Now you're paying, you should be able to go right in. And with virtual queue, same thing. Virtual queue, and I mentioned this before, and again, we're running way over in this, I apologize, but the virtual queue for Remy, when I did that one, we had to wait 20, 30 minutes in virtual queue, which was designed to not have you wait. It's just the experience. They're saying they're making it better. I just think they're making it worse. And Desi, let's just get them to go back to no Fast Pass. Let's just no Lightning Lane. Just go in. You're on your own. You either you see an attraction, you wait in line for it, you don't. I don't know. It just feels like there's really not a better option at this point. But we'll continue to track it and see how things go. So I appreciate you guys. Go ahead.
I still think I would rather have this Genie plus Lightning Lane option than the Universal option. I know that might be an unpopular opinion, but the Universal option is so freaking expensive. I'm sorry, it's not. If you add up all the Lightning Lanes together, it still doesn't equal the cost of the Universal. And I know that Universal, you get to go on multiple times, but I don't want them to say, okay, well then we're going to start charging $300 to have the unlimited.
No, I agree with you. And again, I'm used to make fun of Universal for that. Like, oh my gosh, it's the same price as a ticket almost for a skip the lines. Unreal. Well. You know what? Let's talk about some park. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about some park news. Maybe there's some good things that lift us back up again. Stick around. We will be right back.
WDWNT presents Timekeeping, a year-by-year journey through the history of the vacation kingdom of the world. Join us for the premiere Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern or watch on demand anytime on the WDW News Today YouTube channel.
Welcome back to ParksCenter. If you're watching, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. Please give us a thumbs up if you can. It helps people to find the show. And we want to make sure more people find it so that we can hopefully help you, help everyone else to kind of navigate through all the crazy things that are going on in the Disney parks, because there are a lot of crazy things going on in the Disney parks. And honestly, you know, the 50th, I feel like we've been talking about pretty much since the 49th. Anniversary, and so we get to talk about it for 18 solid months. It feels like we've been talking about it forever. It's only 24 days in, but every day they come up with new stuff, and I don't know if this was because it wasn't ready yet, or if the original idea was let's spread things out throughout throughout this entire celebration. I think that's the line they're handing us when it comes to Tron and the Cosmic Rewind. It's like, hey, if we get it open in the 18 months, it still counts as being open for the 50th. So, you know, and the sooner the better. I don't care. Let's just get them open, and let's also make sure we don't have to pay $900 to ride it. But so some of the 50th stuff that came out this week, I wanted to kind of draw attention to. But one of the things that we had show up, I will definitely need one of. So maybe, Coach, you can pick me up on when you go down. This little Skyliner toy, I freaking love the Skyliner toys. They've got one. They did one for 2021, and now they've got one that resembles the 50th anniversary Skyliner that they've got. I think this is again a neat little touch that they did to bring the Skyliner into the 50th anniversary to celebrate the Skyliner, and then also to take more money out of my pocket because I'm going to buy one. The other thing that they've done, and we talked about the contemporary merchandise last week, but they've launched the Polynesian line. You know, Polynesian was one of the OG resorts. So if you went to Boutique, and clearly there was a line of, you know, they were expecting a lot of people to buy this. You know, was there Lightning Lane to buy this merch? I don't know. The Magic Band.
No, please.
Oh yeah, Event Horizon in chat earlier said like, you know, will there be these pay to play opportunities for like restaurants like Space 220? And I'm like, don't put that out in the universe. I don't really think we need that. But so they had a line of merch just for the 50th of contemporary for Polynesian, and they did one for the Fort Wilderness Campgrounds, which I didn't know about that one, and that Magic Band that went like that, and that's crazy. So it's really neat, though, that they're like not just doing Magic Kingdom stuff, that they're celebrating all of the things that are turning 50 and then, you know, making these celebrations all over the parks. But this Magic Band, it's so freaking beautiful. I'm a Magic Band addict, so you got to indulge me for just a second. But like the little flower with the 50th logo in it, the Polynesian Village Resort on the outside, just the box, the whole thing looks really cool. But the thing that was announced that was a 50th anniversary thing that like put me over the edge was this 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea menu at Be Our Guest. Whew! Man, you know what? The other thing, I'm a sucker for a Magic Band, but I'm also a sucker for a glow cube. Oh my gosh, you put a glow cube, you put 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea on that. I assume that the reason that they did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea food, food, space, you get what I'm saying, at Be Our Guest is because it lives on the bones, like the graveyard of what used to be 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So you know, there were a bunch of other offerings that came up. I don't know, Kamila, did you see any of these things? I think you're not as big a stuff person as I am, so I don't think that's the thing for you, but anything that stood out?
I mean, I do think the resort collections are fun. At the Polynesian, I'd be happy if they just replenished that lamp, because I want one of those. So, you know, you could have done that and made me happy. I will say, I'm a little disappointed that Disney can give us so much merch, but they couldn't give us much else for the 50th anniversary celebration. I wanted to see, like open a little pop-up museum of like the history of the 50 years, or just something that we could experience and not something that we had to buy. But I haven't been a big fan of the 50th merch just because I don't love the color scheme, but I expect that we'll see plenty of it in the coming months.
Okay. You know what? Honestly, are you saying basically that we've lowered our bar so far that we're just willing to accept whatever they give us? I mean, we talked about that, though. The 50th is that we thought Enchantment was going to be a celebration of 50 years of Disney. We thought these gold statues were all going to be about the 50 years of, the 50 years of Disney, not necessarily like, Dante and I don't know. It just seems a little weird, the choices that they made, that they're not about the 50 years. But I do think the Vault collection speaks to that, and there are some things that kind of go down that road. But I don't disagree with you that some sort of a museum, especially because when you used to walk into Main Street, and we talked about Lost Disney Magic Kingdom. We're going to talk about Epcot at the end of this show. Last week we talked about Magic Kingdom. One of the things I didn't bring up with the Walt Disney Story, when I would go in as a kid, we would go onto Main Street, and my dad would make us go to the Walt Disney Story. And I say make us go because he felt like it was important that we understand where all this came from. And so we would go into the Walt Disney Story, and there was a mural there. I don't know if you remember that you guys probably never saw this, but there was a mural of like all of Disney's latest characters from their movie. And you would go in and you watch a little movie, and then there might be some things out, and there's still some of that at Disneyland, with the bench and all that kind of stuff. So I agree with you. I think that could have been there. They should have had that. But yeah, I get from you that you don't think that some of this merch is enough. That maybe they needed to do something other than a slap bracelet to get you excited about 50 years. I don't know. I thought that was interesting that it was just a slap bracelet, because they've been using the slap bracelet as magic bands recently. So also, by the way, I got dragged a little in chat because I think Dawn said, what is Rob not a sucker for? No, I don't know. Pins, wishables, Vinylmation. Coach, let's go to you. I was going to go to Desi next, but let's go to you. What are you excited about with the stuff that they've shown us here?
Well, number one, Rob, you can count on me. I will definitely get you that. I will feed your addiction, and I'll get that for you and send it to you.
All right.
But I'm interested because I think for the Vault collection stuff, it's almost like it definitely taps into that nostalgia a little bit, and then you kind of have the two sides of the coin. I don't mind the color scheme all that much. I think of all the departments in Disney, I agree with Tom on this one, that merchandise is really the one that really did the best. Unfortunately, that means we have to buy it. Shock and surprise, Disney's trying to get more profit out of it. But I think it's one of those things where, there's some stuff that I like. I think some of the stuff is a little bit different. But again, is it stuff you have to have? Is it any different? To me, I look at it as those people that buy the year stuff. I'm going to buy the 2020 stuff or the 2021 stuff, or you know what I mean? The 50th to me is a little bit different because it's a little more timeless. So while it's along the same vein, and I agree with Kamila on a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to the merchandise, it's different because it's got 50 on it. So I know when we went in July, a lot of that stuff wasn't out yet. So it was, we're going back again in November. So, there's a lot. I have a laundry list of people that are like, buy me X, Y, and Z. So I have to... We are driving, so fortunately I don't have to pay to ship it. But I have an actual suitcase of things and a laundry list of things I have to buy for other people. So it'll be exciting, and everyone will think I'm Tom Corliss for a day when I'm buying all this stuff inside, but it's really just for other people. So I can pretend to be Tom Corliss, which is cool. So.
You fly down, right?
We're driving.
Oh, you're driving. Okay. I was going to say, because
this time we're driving, yeah.
I don't know if anybody else flies down and only loads up half a suitcase just in case they're bringing stuff back. Just me? That's okay, cool.
You have to have room for the popcorn bucket.
Absolutely.
I lost out on that last Mickey pop. Yeah, I've got big problems.
Sore subject.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the other things I pulled up here from the 50th is that, and again, there's a lot of new snacks, and some of them are rolling out slowly. Some of them we're just reviewing them as we can get to them. But this petite stump cake at Wilderness Lodge, which looks fantastic.
Beautiful.
But it looks like, go take a picture of it for Instagram and then throw it away. Is that what we're basically doing here? Because the review of it was not so hot. But I do love, and again, you touched on, Coach, that merch has been doing well. I think food and beverage has been doing amazing. 150 different things that they've promised us for the 50th anniversary. They could have just done 50, 150 across the entire resort, and I've got 18 months to eat or try it all. So this is.
I had dinner with a few of our reporters the other night, and they said that they were getting so sick of eating all of these cupcakes because there's so many to review.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, most of the stuff is sweet, right? It's not savory. Most of the stuff you're getting is something that's sweet. So you really have to pace yourself or get ready for your glucose to shoot up.
Yeah.
So anyway, the 50th has been, something we'll continue to talk on, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming, continuing to come over and over again for the 50th anniversary. But something else we kind of touched on last week, and now moving on to another topic, is we talked about Christmas, because why not? It's October 24th. Let's talk about Christmas. I think we're all of the mindset that we all love the holiday, and they do amazing things at the parks, but they've already started putting up some decorations, and the Christmas party at Disneyland way sold out. They only had a couple nights. Disney's Merriest After Hours is sold out November 9th and 11th, which is actually the second and third nights of this thing. So the first night is still available on November 8th, I believe, and then the second and third nights are sold out of this already. So a lot of people clearly getting in the Christmas spirit, or panicking because they want to get the cheap version of this before they have to pay for the $229 version of this. Desi, are you going to this event?
No, the only event I've ever paid money for on top of my annual pass was the Star Wars one. Just because I'm already paying so much money for my annual pass and going and spending so much money on food and merchandise every week, there's no reason for me to go to another event to spend my money on. They get enough of my money as it is.
That can't be right. I don't feel like that's they need more of it, please. Kamila, what do you think about this event?
Yeah, so I was waiting for this event to be announced, and I was absolutely planning on going. I will be there that first week in December, going specifically to see Disney World during this season, which I have never done. But as soon as I saw that pricing, I was like, no, I don't think it's worth that. So I'm not surprised. Yes, we're talking about the fact that these two dates are sold out, but it took a long time to get to where any dates were sold out for this. And I think that just speaks to how outrageous the pricing is. I mean, it jumped up a lot. And I think, if any of us are wondering if there's a ceiling, I think we're kind of seeing it with this Christmas party. I was prepared to pay, $120, maybe $130, but not $230. That's too much, considering I'm already paying for a deluxe resort where I get the deluxe evening hours. So I'll just go to that and call it my Christmas party. It's too expensive.
What? Disney took?
I know.
What? That doesn't make any sense. You know what though? If you take into account what a day ticket costs, and then you have to add in your Genie Plus and your Lightning Lane for a park, I mean, and you're gonna give me some cookies, maybe? I don't know. This may be a deal. Coach, is this something? I mean, do you ever do the after hours events? Or I know we've talked. I think you've done the old school parties, but any of the after hours events?
Yeah, we did. We did the after hours at that park, Animal Kingdom, and we did because we wanted to ride and did stuff, and we got our half our money back just in sodas, because cast members were load up your backpack, and we walked out with I'm not even kidding 30 bottles of 20 ounce of soda. They were just take them. We're okay. But the after hour stuff to me is even like the Halloween stuff. It's to meet the characters, right? It's to interact with those rare characters. It's to have those events. It's to do those types of things. And if you're going, you're probably not going by yourself. You're probably going with someone, I would guess. And if you have a family, then it's like, wow, okay, we're spending a lot of money for this. I think it's just too much. And I think like anything else, they're trying to push that line to see how far people will go. And it's going to be a supply and demand thing, like you said before, Rob. When people start saying, "Okay, no, we're not going," there's certain, Christmas Day and certain dates like that are always going to be booked, but other days I don't think are going to be. I think you're going to start to see it fall off, like anything else. I mean, even us driving down at $3.50 a gallon, whatever it's going to be, it's going to cost us a ton of money just to drive down from Connecticut all the way to Florida. But it's still cheaper than plane. But it's at some point there's a breaking point for everybody. And so at what point is it worth it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I will say though, and I think Kamila, we talked about this last week, is that the Disneyland parties are much better than the Disney World parties. And going to Oogie Boogie Bash, that may have been the best party I have ever attended at a Disney park. Better than any fireworks viewing, better than any and I've been to Pirates and Princesses parties, and the Mickey's Not So Scary, Mickey's Very Merry. That was well worth the money to me, and it wasn't this price tag. That was the thing too.
Right.
So.
And neither was the Disneyland one. So that's why I don't understand why the Disney World, where I know, having been to both, parks parties, I know I'm going to get less compared to what I would get if I went to the Disneyland version. Why is this so expensive? I don't understand.
I think they felt like they could sell it out. They sold out Boo Bash, and Boo Bash was it was a lesser party than Mickey's Not So Scary, and it sold out and at a higher price. And they probably thought, hey, if we could do that, we could do this because it's Christmas. I think that you're right, Coach. I think we'll see if this is the ceiling, if maybe it doesn't sell. But the fact that 2 of these nights have sold out, and I get your point, Kamila, it took a while to happen, but people are doing it. Just like we talked about Lightning Lane. People are doing it. They're spending the money. So somebody will see, hey, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. They're not going to be like Desi, like you, that can drive up and down, back and forth or whatever. They're going to be the people who are going to do it for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they're going to go, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
For just a little more, I can do this. But think about this: $229 a ticket, 4 people in a family. That's almost $1,000.
For what is it, like 4 hours? And you're getting the nighttime parks, which, I mean, look, yes, Main Street is stunning at nighttime, but the rest of the park isn't.
Yeah.
And at least for me, my kids are going to be super sleepy if I try keeping them up that late.
I was going to say, imagine that. I mean, I've been to those, you go to a dessert party and, you've put a fireworks dessert party on the thing and you've already eaten. And you didn't space it out far enough between dinner, and then no one in your family is hungry now, and you're like, you better eat that. Oh, you're only 12, you better drink that champagne because I need to get my money's worth out of this. I mean, it's really, I'm not condoning that, by the way. Please don't at me. I'm not condoning underage drinking in any way, shape, or form. So, but I do think, though, it's one of those things, I feel like when I do those after hours, it's like, oh, popcorn cart, everybody grab some. Oh, drink cart, let's get some. You're going to be thirsty later? Don't tell me you're not going to be thirsty later because you need to have drinks. Let's take some more drinks and try and get your money's worth. But wow, how many sodas is it going to take to get $229 worth? I don't know, but we'll be at this party. We'll review it and we'll spread the word. But I think by the time we're actually at this party, which is in, the first one is November 8th, which is in a couple weeks, more may be sold out at that point.
And they're going to have party exclusive cupcakes that you're going to have to buy extra.
And merch, please merch. What were you gonna say, Kamala?
I mean, I will say, I always hear excellent feedback about them. So, if you're someone who looks at it and you don't scoff at the price, I always hear they had the best time ever and they got to do so many things. So,
So let's talk about just another couple things real quick about holiday or Christmas. Is that Christmas merch is out? What? I mean, so there's Christmas merch out, and they've already started putting the snow on top of Sleeping Beauty Castle. So this will be great for your Halloween pictures when you've got snow in the background. And then even in addition to that, they've added this Holly Jolly scene to to the Magic Key Lounge.
Magic Key Lounge
at Disneyland Park, which is great. And then I scroll down a little bit and look at this, where you can see Halloween and Christmas. It's almost like they've created their own Christmas, or their own Nightmare Before Christmas situation with the trees. Like, here's the Christmas one, and here's the Halloween one, and maybe the Thanksgiving one's over on the side. I mean, it's really kind of jarring to me to see that out already. Like, I get teasing that already, but to see this, let me go do this real quick, but maybe this is where you go get your holiday card picture done really quick, and then, then you're all set. But it seems too early to do that to me, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm going on a Disney cruise this upcoming weekend, and even though it's a Halloween cruise, I'm probably going to try to take a family photo and possibly use it on my Christmas card. So, I mean, maybe if people are like, oh, the photographers are here, maybe we'll just try to get our Christmas photo done at the same time.
I mean, okay. We'll allow it. That's fine. I was really thinking this year, though, I could be in that picture. No?
Well, if you're willing to come on the Disney Dream next weekend, let's do it.
Willing
you can
to.
be in our family photo.
I'll be all packed. That's fine. So moving on from Christmas to New Year's, because I mean, who's not thinking about New Year's Eve right now? Some Walt Disney World theme park reservations unavailable on New Year's Eve. So already, Epcot is not available on New Year's Eve. Yeah, crazy, right? Because
people clamoring to see those fireworks.
So what? Easy. So I don't know what those fireworks are going to look like this year, but I will say and share the story that I did go one year for New Year's Eve to Disney World, and everyone who is on the blog who is associated with ParksCenter, the WDW&T, was like, why? Why are you coming then? And the problem is when you've got kids that are in school, sometimes that's the only time you can come is during the holidays. And I was like, oh, I've never been during New Year's Eve. I'd like to give it a try. And we spent New Year's Eve proper at Epcot. The night before, they were doing fireworks at Magic Kingdom, and so I did Magic Kingdom fireworks on the 30th, and they did the countdown and the whole thing, so it was like they reenacted it there. Because the capacity is so low in the kingdom, they did both nights for New Year's Eve fireworks. So I was like, I'm not going to be caught dead in there, because I saw some nightmare stories, and this was before COVID, about like 4 a.m. people still trying to get out of the parks after the parks closed at midnight, because parking lot, trams, all the remember trams? All those things were a problem. And so with Epcot, it was like, hey, here's the park with the biggest capacity. They opened up like the back gates behind Imagination and behind Mexico, and you could walk back and forth. And it was actually not unpleasant to be there for New Year's Eve. And then when they did the fireworks, it was back when we still had there was like some carryover illuminations that was happening. I think it might have been 2018. And they would light up each of the countries, because they were all in different time zones, and say, at this time, France celebrated, its New Year's.
That's
and they would,
cool.
Yeah, it was a really neat thing. Whether they're going to do that now or not, I don't know. But already people are anticipating that's going to happen, I think, and that's why they've booked that. But clearly, we will not have a problem with Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios on that night. Back at whenever time that was, you had the cool fireworks for the Magic Kingdom, you had the cool ones for Epcot. And for some reason, Hollywood Studios at that time was still doing their regular, like, Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam. So, which I like that show, but I'm just saying. So, all I'm putting out here is a little PSA that you got to get your reservations going now if you want to be in the parks for New Year's. And it can be not awful, but I can't imagine post-COVID this will be, what this is going to look like this year with fireworks. Any thoughts?
I think I'm not going. It's too crowded.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, there. You got to be there once for New Year's at some point, right?
I mean, maybe eventually, but I've got 2 kids, and they're definitely not staying up until midnight. Because I don't know if you've ever seen toddlers pass their bedtime; they are not very well behaved.
No,
especially the next day. Especially the next day.
I mean, yeah, I think any of us who have had kids have been there. Yes, I agree. But then you also have you're there with other people's kids, and even if your kids aren't with you, then you're going to have to put up with whatever's going on with those kids, right? Let me talk about one more thing, and then we'll move on to our last discussion of the night. But there was a lot of park news that happened, but I'm just, because there was a lot of it I wanted to get to. One other thing I wanted to talk about was that there was this Walt Disney World files a permit to reroute the Floridian Way near Magic Kingdom, possibly making room for a long-rumored resort hotel. I have thoughts. So, I would love to see another Magic Kingdom monorail resort. There were others that were rumored, and when the resort opened, that they were going to be doing. The Mediterranean was one that they were going to build. There was always talk about making it over where Wilderness Lodge is, but on the inside of that monorail track. But that land was too marshy to build on, and there was all kinds of things that they went through with that. But I have a couple problems with this, and I want to get your thoughts on it. One is that I feel like there are too many resort hotels as is. Because if you pack all of those up, where are those people going to go? They're going to go into the parks that aren't that are already overflowing with capacity. That can't be good. Second thing is Reflections. They were going to build that. Does that mean they're not going to build Reflections now? I mean, they have a whole plot of land that's already been cleared and readied to build a resort. Does that mean they're not going to build that now? I mean, Kamila, do we need to have another resort? I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, you would be surprised how many, like this stretch of October through December, if you didn't have your room booked a couple of months ago at least, I mean, the inventory is extremely limited. And, maybe you can get lucky and, find a room here and there. But I mean, there are plenty of days, like if you were looking anytime from now till the end of the year, and even through a little bit of the beginning of the year, where you would literally see nothing available. And so I think from Disney's perspective, they know there are plenty of people who are coming to visit the parks who stay off property, potentially because it may be more affordable to do that. And so I think from their standpoint, let's try to capture more of those people, right? Don't stay off, stay on. I mean, you do have plenty of days where there's no inventory, no availability. And so, maybe it's just trying to allow for some more of that. But I mean, I agree. It feels odd. It feels like they're already struggling to maintain the crowds that they currently have.
Yeah. Desi?
Well, first off, this is great for my family because my grandparents own some land back there, so I hope this means that our property value is going to go up. But second, instead of a resort, I was kind of wondering if maybe they would consider putting another parking lot back there, because my biggest pain with the Magic Kingdom is getting in and out of it, having to take the ferry or the monorail. How awesome would it be to have a parking lot where you could just walk right up to the gate without having to go through a monorail or a ferry to get there? I mean, I get the concept of wanting to control the experience of going into the park, but it is such a pain, especially like as a local. Sometimes I'll want to run over to the park on my lunch break and just run in, have lunch, come back home. And I can never do that with Magic Kingdom just because it's such a pain to get in and out of.
You know what? I agree with you, because I know that when I go there and I think about Magic Kingdom, it's almost like, well, you almost have to take the bus if you're, you don't want to take that huge, pilgrimage, especially if you have to do the tramless parking lot 5K. But when you get there, it is like it used to be at Disneyland, that you would pull right up to the front of it as if it was Six Flags. So I like that there is a presentation of the Magic Kingdom because of how magical that place is. But you're right, it is kind of a pain. So I'd almost hate to see that go, but also I agree with you, because there are people who play the system to try to get parked closer and and all that. So I think that would be interesting. But when you started to say parking, I thought you were going to say park, because that's the thing that I want, is a fifth park. Like another place for all of these bodies to be. If you're going to have 26 hotels, maybe you should have more than 4 parks. And, that's a thing to me. Coach, finish us out on this one.
I think you'll see a fifth gate when Super Nintendo World and the Universal opens their own gate. I think Disney will have to do something big. I don't think them opening a few rides is going to make a difference. I think you're going to see a massive swing. I think that's when you'll get your wish, Rob. I think until then, you're going to see them trying to push the envelope more and more. To Kamila's point, we're actually staying with a friend's DVC points that they just gifted us because there is no inventory and she's going to lose them. So she literally just said, "Here, you can have these," because she's the coolest person ever. So we're going to stay there, and that's kind of how it works. And we're going to try to help her sell her points on the secondary market. And we don't know if my wife's been trying to help her, and it's been a challenge because to Kamila's point, there just isn't inventory. And when you're looking at this from a business perspective in dollars and cents, and you're looking at spreadsheets, they're seeing sold out rooms. We can build more to make more money. But again, on the backside, they're going to lose that experience because parks are going to be crushed. They're thinking, oh, we can sell more Lightning in that way. And they're not going to realize at some point people are just going to be like, we're just not going to come anymore. So it'll be interesting to see when everything dies down from the 50th especially, what is going to draw people to get to the parks at that point. I don't know what the answer to that question is, and I think we'll see some changes once that ends. But they've been so short-sighted with everything. I can't see them really looking past the 18 months, let alone 5 years. So
Okay. All right. So, other thoughts? No. Cool. All right, so we're going to take one last commercial break, and we'll come back. And a bit that we did last week was we talked about Lost Disney World, and I want to continue this segment. So we started out talking about things at Magic Kingdom that were gone, and not necessarily to say that they should have remained, but just to think nostalgically over these 50 years, the attractions, the restaurants, the experiences that have come and gone over the years, and we wanted to kind of like we talked about there being a museum, we sort of wanted to celebrate a little bit of that. And last week we talked about Magic Kingdom. This week we're going to talk about Epcot. So hopefully you can share those memories with us, share some of yours in the chat. We'll talk about all that when we come back from break. But I do feel like this one had to be done with Kamila, because last week she was like, that's not my park.
I will say, the one I have today, Disney, if anyone is listening, you better bring this one back now. Right now.
Fire it up.
I've got one.
Okay.
I've got one. I am not happy.
I mean,
ready to rock.
Captain EO.
I hope it's Captain EO. I have fingers crossed it's Captain EO, but we'll find out after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Unplanned Downtime, the YouTube channel for all your favorites, including Cosmic Read Live, discussions and Imagineering attractions, Deep in the Plus, reviewing the catalog on Disney Plus, Ink and Paint, celebrating female voices in the Disney fandom, WDW News Tonight, a late-night comedy show with sketches and characters, Boxed In, opening mystery packages and viewer mail, Picky Eaters, trying to eat our way across Disney restaurants, WDWNT the RPG, a tabletop adventure set in Tokyo Disney Sea, and more of your favorites. Subscribe now at unplannedDowntime.com. Remember, it's not an accident, it's unplanned downtime.
Welcome to Deep in the Plus. Each week, join host Rob Whiteside and a panel of Disney superfans as they take a different movie or TV show from the Disney Plus catalog, tell you its history, details, give their review, and let you know if it's worth your time. Current shows, classic movies, and everything in between. Watch Deep in the Plus live Tuesday nights at 9 Eastern for new episodes, or catch Deep in the Plus anytime on YouTube at unplannedDowntime.com.
Okay, welcome back to ParksCenter again. We're going to talk about Lost Disney World, and I really want to emphasize we're not like trying to slam Disney for these things being gone necessarily, but there are a lot of things that have come and gone over the 50 years, and I sat down to make a list just off the top of my head and came up with about 200 across the resort, so I thought we would break it down by park. And so this week we're going to be talking about Epcot, and so what I want to start with is to go to each of our panelists and ask something that is gone from Epcot that you remember fondly, that just brings back great memories for you. Not necessarily that you think needs to be returning, but just something that you miss greatly. And Kamila, you teed this up perfectly before the break, so I want to ask you for yours first. And boy, I can't wait to see what it is.
I'm going to be honest. I'm probably going to let a lot of people down with this one because I feel like I'm probably the only person that misses this. But and I do want this to return, like, just so we're clear. I know we're trying to be nice about it, but I would love to see this come back. But the Innoventions Center was my absolute favorite thing as a kid. Like, I was always kind of interested in science and experiments, and I just thought it was so cool as a kid that you could like go into this area and it was just like this sensory overload of like colors and sounds and things you can touch and play with, and there was always so much happening in there, and it was always different. I loved that, and I hate so much that they tore it down, and I would love nothing more to see it come back, because I feel like there was this part of Epcot, at least, when they had Innoventions, where it was about the future and what tomorrow was going to be like. It had that like Jetsons type of vibe of like, this is what could happen, and I just thought that was so cool. And so I would love to let the Imagineers show us some of the cool technology they're working on, some of the movie magic stuff, but also Disney around the rest of the parks, they partner with all these companies, Test Track right there, not too far from where it used to be. Show us what's new, what you're working on. Let us play with it and see it and touch it and feel it. And that would be such a fun, classic Epcot, but also a look to the future, which I feel like it was supposed to be. It was hosted by Tom Morrow. Like, there was just so much about that was so cool. I miss it desperately. Bring it back now.
I did really enjoy that Sum of All Thrills, being able to like build my own roller coaster and then ride it. That was such a cool concept.
So the old school one, Communicore, I have fond memories of that one, and I know you guys probably don't remember that one, but Communicore was very much the same thing, and it was designed to be part of sort of like Walt's vision of a permanent World's Fair, right? Things that's like, what's the breaking technology? What's the new thing? And let's try it out in this experimental prototype community of tomorrow. And it really felt that way when you went into Communicore and then later on into Innoventions. So I think the Innoventions kept the spirit of Communicore, but just finally updated it because there was a lot of stuff that just felt super old. Tom Morrow was great. I loved him. There was like, Where's the Fire? They did Segway training in there once. They used to have video games that when they put the video games in, it was great, and then all of a sudden they were there for 10 years, and now you're going and you're playing Aladdin on a Sega Genesis. There was a piggy bank game to teach kids about money. There's just so many little things that kind of came and went along the lines of that one. And I think that Play is supposed to be a little bit of that hands-on kind of a thing, the Play Pavilion. So I feel like they've kind of moved that hands-on part, but it's not that cutting-edge part that you're talking about. That seems like that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, you're talking about that area, like when you exit, Spaceship Earth, and there's like that kind of little bit of like those little like booths and that type of setup.
Well, no, I was talking about the Play Pavilion that they're bringing to.
Okay.
So that'll be that hands-on thing. I get what you're talking about, like the what's it called? Something Tomorrow, Project Tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
It's called Project
That's
Tomorrow.
What it is.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, They have like remnants of it, but it seems to me they could take that exact concept and just continue to update it, and it could be really cool. I mean, I think about, like, you know, I'll go to like video game conferences or even some of the Comic Cons, like the New York Comic Con, which has like a whole video game section, and people pay so much money to be able to go to those. You're telling me Disney can't come up with some type of partnership and work with companies? Let them bring in, you know, some of the booths. You don't even have to do that much work for that. So I don't understand how it doesn't exist anymore.
First of all,
you know,
yeah, I was going to say, first of all, loving the energy from Kamila tonight. That's awesome. It's almost like her anti-boat rants from back in the day. But also, you know what, Kamila, if you are going to these Comic-Cons and you're cosplaying, I'm going to need to see some pictures, and maybe we bring them in a post-show or something like that. Okay, so now we've got a definite front runner from Kamila there. Let me go to Desi. Is there one thing, experience, attraction, restaurant, food, shop, something from Epcot?
I know you mentioned earlier Ellen's Energy Adventure, and it just made me remember how much I miss taking naps in there. I miss having somewhere to go in that was dark and cold and take naps. It was fantastic. I do still have the American Adventure though, so I'm glad for that. That's my other go-to nap spot. But as for something I miss, I was always, like, as a kid, I was really into Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. I thought that was such a fun thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I loved that movie, and it was just so fun, and I feel like that's something they could easily bring back.
Yeah, I could see that. So, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience was in the Magic Eye Theater, and when the Magic Eye Theater first opened with the Imagination Pavilion, it opened up with something called Magic Journeys. And honestly, like, a little story, I can't see 3D. Like, for some reason, my head doesn't really kind of like pick up on it. So when I was a little kid, and I would go to Magic Journeys, one of the parts of Magic Journeys was that there was a merry-go-round, and there was a golden, like a brass ring, because apparently that was a thing you do on merry-go-rounds. I don't know.
Yeah, Dollywood.
Okay, so there was I haven't ridden the carousel there. So you grab the brass ring, and so you know, I'm sitting in the audience, and the little kids are going like this, and parents, and trying to like do this, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how flat does that look? Like, so it all looks normal. It just doesn't look like deep 3D. So, but anyway, don't be sad. Johnny Depp also has the same problem. So, so when I would say that that then from there it went to Captain EO. And I worked at that attraction, so, you know, Eastman Kodak proudly presents Captain EO. Like, that to me, I was a huge Michael Jackson fan, and so, like, I loved that attraction. I thought that was really cool. And then they replaced that with Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, and then they bring back Captain EO for a bit, and then that's a little dicey, so we don't want to keep that out. So they take that away, and then now it's the you know, the Pixar Disney Film Festival, which is fine. I mean, it uses a little bit of that you know, the 4D effects for the studio, like the rumbling and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think Honey, I Shrunk the Audience was really neat, and it tied well into that attraction.
4D experience, you know, where it's like you've got the 3D screen, but you've also got like the rats running around at your feet. You know, I thought it was so cool and innovative back in the day.
Okay. So, Coach, can you top that? What's one that you missed from Epcot?
I definitely can't top that, because I got apparently, when I started to go to Disney, that was when Epcot completely went off the rails. So I didn't get to personally experience a lot of this stuff, but I'll be honest with you, as corny as it sounds, I think the Leave a Legacy I thought was so cool, and I was jealous that, you know, I didn't have, you know, an opportunity to leave that. I know from the baseball side of it, a lot of times, you know, you can buy a brick at a stadium and they'll use it to lay it out, and you're kind of immortalized in that stadium forever. And for them to kind of move it and turn it into almost like a cartoon wall kind of broke my heart a little bit. We did get the benefit of a meme of Jason Diffendahl, which is pretty awesome. But in all seriousness, I think it kind of ripped out some of the nostalgia, which seems kind of counterproductive in a 50th anniversary celebration. But Rosita, super chat from Rosita. the Super Chat legend. Just wanted to shout that out.
Thank you, Rosita.
We love you, Rosita. You're awesome. Yeah, so that was just, again, not necessarily a popular thing, but it seems like they sort of, I don't want to say ripped the soul out of Epcot, but it definitely seemed like it was almost kind of a slap in the face to those people. We only guaranteed it for this many years, so we're ripping them out. I feel like they maybe could have moved them and did them a little more, showed them a little more respect, a little more justice. Just my opinion.
Well, you know what? First of all, again, thank you, Rosita, for the super chat. Just came back from Magic Kingdom, so tired. Yeah, that will wear you out very quickly. So again, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat. It's very generous. So let's talk back about what you're talking about here. So you're saying, like, from a nostalgia standpoint, you're nostalgic for these tombstones. This is the nostalgia that you're missing out on here. I'm just kidding. I'm giving you a hard time.
It was an attempt. I think it was one of those things where you look at a modern thing and it's people were trying to guess that it looks cool, and unfortunately, when you do that, eventually it doesn't look so good. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like a little bit of a slap in the face. I thought there would have been a little bit more outrage from people, but
I like that they actually kept them in some way, shape, or form, because like you said, they had only promised them for a certain amount of time, and I always thought it was cool because my kids were on there, and so it was always really neat. Like, and you know, when they were little, and go and showing them, and they thought it was cool, and then later they forgot that they were on there, and I'd remind them again, and you know, so I think it was a really neat thing to be able to do, and it was like, you know, a high capacity thing. Again, talking about capacity, it was cheap. It was like $20 to get your picture on there, so a lot of people did it, and I think a lot of people probably didn't understand what it was, and then at some point they actually started like gifting it with like a package that you would put together with your travel agent. It would be like, oh hey, you get 4 luggage tags, and you also get a Leave a Legacy, so there were things like that they did with it I thought were pretty cool. I'm glad that they continued it on. I always wish I had gotten one of those bricks in front of the Magic Kingdom, and now that they've replaced all those, I'm actually glad I didn't, because I think those people got hosed more than the people from Epcot, because those were much more expensive, and at least the Leave a Legacy exists somewhere still that you can go and look at it. But yeah, it is kind of a cheap way to do it. I literally thought when they said they were going to move it, they were going to pick these things up and move them. Like, I thought they were going to exist the way they are. I didn't think that they were going to just like chuck them and then like print the rest out on an oversized printer and like put them up. So.
But they're colored. It's a colored printer, kind of. Yeah,
they didn't have to do that, part of me says, trying to be positive. But it does look like some kind of a WDWNT or a News Tonight joke that we did. Like, this can't be a real thing. That's not...
It looks like when you go to Home Depot and you're trying to pick out paint colors. Like those samples. Literally, that's the image I just got.
Yeah.
Rob, I'm really curious to know what yours is, because there's some huge Epcot changes still available. Like, I'm just very curious.
You know what? Just a memory that I have, and again, don't at me, but Captain EO. I mean, again, like George Lucas, again, part of this, and Michael Jackson at the time was just, so big, and the idea that was in a Disney park was like so awesome. And then it was Michael Jackson music. Had Angelica Houston was in it before she was huge. It had like the little band that was there. I just remember as a kid going and seeing that and just like loving every second of it, and like walking out and like trying to do the moves and singing the song and the whole deal. and the keychain, I said to my older sister at the time, I was like, if they have a keychain with that logo, that Captain EO logo, the triangle, I was like, I'm getting it. And they had one in the gift shop, and it was like, yes, like I love that. So, and then later that ended up being an attraction as a cast member that I worked. And again, so I would say, and now, ladies and gentlemen, put on your 3D glasses as Eastman Kodak proudly presents Captain EO. And then there's people in the back with their video cameras putting their 3D glasses up to the, no, sir, that's not going to work that way. Sorry. But, just stacking the 3D glasses, and you hear that, another part of me would play in, like, where the jumping water was as you would leave. You'd hear that, and like, it was just, to me, that was really cool. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I miss. I was also a cast member on Listen to the Land, so I was actually, a spieler on that attraction when there was a spieler. And to me, I feel like that Living with the Land has lost its soul, kind of its soul, because that song was iconic. It was cheesy 80s, but it was iconic. And then, the fact that you had somebody on the boat with you giving, kind of a guided tour was kind of cool. I did try to do jokes at one point. My lead did not like that.
Be a skipper.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not the Jungle Cruise.
Secretly wanted to be, I was told that. This is not the Jungle Cruise. This is not, but it was a 15-minute spiel, and at the very end, we would roll into that tunnel at the end. We'd say, as we look to the future and we listen to the land, and then you hear that when springtime comes, it was it was really fun. There was a cohesion to Epcot back in the day, there's not right now.
Yeah.
And maybe we're getting back to that, because
Agree.
the only cohesion, the only thing that holds Epcot together are construction walls. That's the only thing holding Epcot together right now. I mean, the colored walls and all that, there is some cohesion there, but it was a really neat thing when you would go from one pavilion to the next. So, Listen to the Land, though, was the big attraction in the Land Pavilion. But then you also had Symbiosis, which was in the Harvest Theater upstairs, which then later became the Lion King, which then now is Awesome Planet. Symbiosis was horrible. It was horrible.
Has anything good ever been in that theater?
Honestly, as much
I like Awesome Planet.
I was about to say, as much as everybody else from our group hates on Awesome Planet, Kamila, I like it too. Like, it's, to me, the best thing that they've put in that theater. So I think that the bar was pretty
Well,
low.
that's not a high bar.
Then over to the side of Listen to the Land was the Kitchen Cabaret, which then later became Food Rocks. And so while Soarin' is a much better attraction, it was very, very quaint that they had this little animatronic show of, Food Rocks in there, with the food wrapper. So there were a lot of things that are very, very different about the Land Pavilion itself that they don't. There used to be a little Nestle Toll House, because Nestle was the sponsor, Nestle Toll House chocolate chip cookie baking class in the back corner where kids could come and bake chocolate chip cookies. So, there were a lot of little touches like that to the original Epcot that I thought were pretty amazing. Does anybody else, Kamila, do you have another that you have in mind?
The other ones, there's a couple of others, but I'll mention just one, which is Maelstrom, which I do have a lot of memories of riding as a kid. And so, it's interesting, I feel like some of the things that I hear people complain about the most that are gone from Epcot is that, and then the old version of Figment. But, none of us mentioned those things. But maybe I miss, when that ride was more of a walk-on. I'll say that. And it was fun. It had that little dip.
Yeah. So the Maelstrom, honestly, and this is going to be a hot take, I don't actually miss the Maelstrom because I kind of like Frozen. I kind of do.
You?
I know. I know. I'm not part of the solution. I'm part of the problem. The IP situation though, of replacing, attractions with IP. Maelstrom was cool, but it didn't seem to make sense. It was just a hodgepodge of things from Norway. Oh, hey, here's some bears, some polar bears, and then here's some trolls, and then we'll finish off with some oil rigs and call it a day. So I guess in a way it was nice that there was kind of a ride through, but when you would get off the boat, you would have to go through the theater, and it was one of those things where originally you had to go and sit in the theater, and as we became less polite as a society, we would wait by the doors and they would open up and people would just shoot through and I don't want to see your stupid movie. I rode your ride, but I don't want to see your stupid movie, and we're just going to move through here. So that was an extra part of it, that at one point it was a whole experience, right? You would go in, you would ride the attraction, you would see the movie, it would leave you with some knowledge of that country, and you would move on. Same thing with like the Living Seas. The Living Seas, you would go in, you would watch a movie, and I don't know if anybody remembers that movie, but you would go in and watch this movie in a theater, and they would talk about how the seas were made, and there was this narration where the woman would go, and it rained and rained and rained and rained, and then she would, yes, exactly, the deluge. The deluge. And then at the very end, they'd say, now we are going to take you to Sea Base Alpha. And like the doors would open up and you'd see the hydrolators. And it's like, oh, okay.
That
all
was
right.
going to be my other one, was the hydrolator. I miss the hydrolator so much. I legit thought it was a real elevator when I was a kid. I thought that we were really going down into the water. And I think my heart was crushed the day I found out it wasn't real.
Wait, it wasn't? But the one at Space 220 is real, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, because I just assumed it was the same technology. Yeah, but I mean that was a one experience. You would go in, you would see sort of a pre-show in the kind of a lobby, and then you would go into that theater and you'd sit down and you'd watch a movie, and then you would come out of that and get into the hydrolators, which would then take you to the sea cabs, which would then take you through the aquarium, and then you would get out into that. Like it was one whole experience.
That's cool.
Now it's like you can go in the exit if you want to. You can ride, you can go to Turtle Talk because Genie just told me Turtle Talk is the thing not to miss. So let me go ahead and get that. And then there was like the tie-in with Nemo and friends throughout the whole thing. So I appreciate that things change and that not everybody is into everything like that. But I did enjoy that original experience. Once they started taking pieces of it out, the rest of it didn't really make sense. So
When we rated the ride vehicles for March Madness, I was so furious that the hydrolator didn't make it past the first round.
Okay. Do you want to vent about that a little bit more, or are you okay? Or
no, I'm done. I'm fine.
So let me go back to the IP situation though, because intellectual property, there's this thought that we're infusing it into too much of Epcot. And originally, when they made Epcot, it had no IP. There was no Disney IP in it at all. And then that's where Hidden Mickeys came from. Is Imagineers tried to hide the little images of Mickey and stuff because they felt like it needed that touch. And then eventually they brought in the characters. One of the attractions that I'm not sad also, in addition to the Maelstrom, that they did IP for was the El Rio de Tiempo, the River of Time. This was the old like River of Time with these life-size marionette scary people that were in there, and then also like some of the imagery inside. I mean, it was a little intense, honestly. And now it's kind of more fun. And you've got the Three Caballeros, and you get to see the, the animatronics when they work at the end, and that's cool. And Donald's in it, and Coach loves Donald, and you should have picked that as your attraction, dude. Apparently you don't.
Big Donald guy.
I might not give you Maelstrom, but I'll give you a pass on this one. Yes, I like the Grand Fiesta Tour better.
You get a pass, Rob.
Oh,
But
You may proceed, Rob. You may proceed.
I think the Grand Fiesta Tour, though, is like a really nice infusion, because I think the thing about the World Showcase is I feel like Disney has struggled over the years to kind of figure out what they want to do with that. Like now we have these constant festivals, which brings in, one crowd that's kind of interested more in like drinking around the world or, that festival aspect. But kind of lost in that is like being able to actually visit each of the pavilions and kind of have something unique to that country that you can do or see. And I think at least with the Grand Fiesta Tour, like you kind of get, like, yes, you have the IP and you have the Three Caballeros, but you also have like these images and scenes from Mexico, which is really nice. And I think, I prefer the Frozen ride too. I'm not going to pretend, honestly, both of them I thought were fun, Maelstrom and then Frozen. But I think you did lose something of like, they just kind of decided that like Frozen was Norway. And so you kind of lost that you're in Norway. And, I hope they find a way to kind of bring that back without just, here's a jacket that's a soccer jacket from the Norway team. Because I want more than that. And I don't want to have to buy something.
That'd be like shoehorning, like, I don't know, Remy and Beauty and the Beast into France. You just don't do that. You just don't Oh, maybe you do. So some people in the chat were talking about Cranium Command. So the MetLife Pavilion, which was not one of the Wonders of Life, was not one of the original pavilions. It was built between Universe of Energy and Horizons RIP. So that they built this other pavilion back in the day when instead of demolishing something to build something new, they just built something in addition, and that was a great thing. They built this. There are all these pads all over Epcot that have been set up for other pavilions that have not happened, that they still could build on without having to trash existing things. So there was the Wonders of Life. It had Body Wars in it, which was a much choppier, harder version of Star Tours. It was kind of like Spider-Man and the Transformers. It's the same thing, but it's just a little worse. There was charming, but it just wasn't as good as Star Tours. But it was an additional attraction, and it was a thrill ride in Epcot, which you didn't really have. And then Cranium Command, I have a soft spot for Cranium Command too, because that one with Buzzy and the little pre-show and general knowledge, and then like all of these actors of the time of the late '80s, that like SNL actors and Charles Grodin, R.I.P., and all these other people who were part of that. It was really a neat thing to see, and it was so neat that somebody decided to steal Buzzy, but that's another story. But I mean, the fact that pavilion was one that was kind of geared toward like fitness in general, like you would have the little bikes that you could ride, that you'd ride up the pass through Disney, and that was kind of cool. They sold.
Of me?
I don't really. We'll review Brink when we review Making of Me. How about that? Making of Me. I don't know. Making of Me was a little cringe. I can't imagine watching that with my kids. Honestly, like Martin Short sitting on the roof of the house while the parents procreate. I don't know why that was a thing. But anyway, that was a neat pavilion in general, and so I'm glad that they're bringing it back to be something more than just, I don't know, more than just a festival center. But I hope that actually comes to fruition at some point. But again, to cue that place up to be a hands-on experience just before COVID hit, not probably the best lineup of things.
When Inside Out came out, I was convinced that the entire reason for this movie was to replace Cranium Command.
Would have been great to replace Cranium Command. A lot of people were like saying that it could replace Imagination Pavilion because of being inside the head and imagination and how that would work. Kamila, you said we didn't really talk about Figment. The original Figment was an amazing thing. If you watch the Back to the Future that Tom did a couple years ago on it, it is sad that is gone, and hopefully someday they right that wrong and they make that pavilion something amazing. But I've always heard people talk about, oh, Inside Out's totally coming there. That's just some rumor that started going around. I think there should be more of Inside Out in the parks. I'm not sure that Epcot's the place for it, but maybe.
They've just got Joy frolicking around outside the.
That's right.
Yeah, she was distracting us while anger and disgust were breaking in the back. Yeah. So I wanted to show this one real quick because, Desi, you talked about going into Ellen for a nice quick nap. The Universe of Energy was one that I used to enjoy, but also was so sleepy. I literally had fallen asleep in this one. It was like a 45-minute attraction, and when they did the Ellen one, they made it shorter.
It was still long.
Yeah.
Still good enough for a nap.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. That was just one of those that, like, the original Universe of Energy has some kick-in music, and if you go back to the original Epcot soundtrack, it's really kind of fun, to listen to that music. But I do get why they infused the whole Ellen and Jeopardy schema into it, because it made it a little bit more interesting, but it was still too long. But it allowed them to keep the dinosaurs, and that was a neat thing, because the dinosaurs were the best part of that. Anybody who ever wrote it as Universe of Energy always was like, it's the dinosaur ride. That's what they knew that as. They had no idea what else happened in there except for there was the dinosaurs. And maybe the same with Ellen. I don't know. But there's so many things that changed over the years. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Millennium. They used Epcot as the kind of the linchpin for the Millennium, and they had that Millennium Pavilion where they brought in all these other countries that you could sample, and in what is now World Showplace, where now all they do is they sell Remy merch until the crowd dies down. But back in the day, that was something that they set up like 150 countries inside, and you could go in almost as if it was like a World's Fair, and get samples of each of these countries. And I feel like maybe they were kind of floating through the idea of, hey, we have 24 pads, but we only have 11 countries. What if we kind of shop around and see if some of these people like being here so much that maybe they make an Israel or a Brazil or some other pavilion. I would love to see it grow past the 11. We've already used up 2 pads. Well, they used up a pad for World Showplace. They used up one for Remy and the France expansion, and they used up one for the Norway expansion. So we're starting to run out of them, but I would love to see them make another country there someday. But the Millennium Pavilion was there, and then they also had the big Mickey wand over top of Epcot with the 2000 on top, and then they also had the Tapestry of Nations parade, and then of course Illuminations. So I mean, a lot of people think very fondly of all of those things, I think. Were you guys there for any of that?
All of it.
Okay.
Some of it.
I have none, all, and some. All right, cool. So, Desi, anything that stands out to you about the Millennium Celebration in general?
I mean, just the 2000 over Epcot, I think, was something that stands out to me. But I have to say that if that was my one time coming to Epcot, like my once in a lifetime trip, and having the 2000 there, I feel like it would be a little sad for those people. And I'm only saying that because I went to France in 1999, and I was excited to see the Eiffel Tower, and they just had this big countdown clock counting down to the year 2000 on the Eiffel Tower. So I feel like I didn't even really get to see the Eiffel Tower when I was in France because it had that big old sign on it. And I feel sorry for anybody who came and that was their one experience with seeing Spaceship Earth.
Okay. I mean, it was Mickey's hand, and we're celebrating the future hand in hand.
I know,
I mean,
I get it, but
come on, go with the theme,
I like
Desi.
it as somebody who sees it all the time as something new and different and special. I'm just saying, if that was somebody's only time seeing it, I could see how it would be a little upsetting.
Well, and I have many more things on my list, so maybe we'll circle back to Epcot again sometime. But last week was Magic Kingdom, and next week we'll take a look at the at the studios and some of the things that that have come and gone, because no park has changed as much as the studios have over the 50 years, the 30 some years that it's been there. It has been, it is 100% different than what it was when it opened. At least the countries are somewhat the same and intact at Epcot. Spaceship Earth is somewhat intact. There are a lot of things that are still intact. It'll be interesting to see what Epcot is in 5 years. If Play Pavilion opens and we get Guardians open, and maybe they do something else with Spaceship Earth by that time, and there's a lot of things that we're very hopeful for the future of Epcot, but looking back at it, there's been some really neat things in that park that it's one point or another, Epcot has been my favorite park, and now it's just the festival park. So hopefully it will return to its splendor someday. As we sign off here, I just want to get last final thoughts from everybody, and we'll start with Coach.
I'm excited to go. We went in July before kind of all this 50th stuff kicked off, and I'm excited to be able to go, albeit in a busy time in Thanksgiving. I got to get Rob his Skyliner merch. Yeah, for sure. And add you to the list of things that if anybody else wants anything, let me know. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm really anxious to just be in there and see all the changes and see what we're looking at in terms of what looks different even from July, because I know there's been some changes on Main Street and whatnot. So I'm excited. There was a lot of stuff that was closed or getting refurbed. So I'm excited to see all the energy in the park and walk down Main Street USA, and I get to see the actual show in person, which we didn't get to see. So we're excited. we're excited
Nice.
to see, and we'll report out. So
Yeah, we can't wait to hear. Desi?
I did not buy any 50th merch this week, but I did buy my Millennium Falcon Magic Band slap bracelet that I'm pretty excited about.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that, and I've tasted about 10 of the 50th snacks so far, so, only 140 to go.
Yeah, you're going to get there any day now. So make sure, again, keep checking that sugar level in your, anyway. Kamila?
So I will say I am hoping to, when I'm down there in December, get my hands on a Mickey popcorn bucket, a Mickey 50th. So we'll see if those are still around then. I'm excited to start to see more of the changeover, right? With Halloween being next weekend, and then, then it's kind of more off to the races for all of the Christmas decoration. I love this time of year, all the holidays, all the fun, all the family gatherings. So I love seeing kind of all the changeover stuff. And then I just am really curious still about the Genie Plus. It just doesn't, I just don't know if I see how it can work. Like, I don't think it's a technical issue. I just don't know that they can really make it work for the parks where they need it the most. So I'm still kind of keeping a close eye on that to figure out, is it worth it for clients' trips? Is it worth it for my own trips? Who and when would I say, yes, you should do this versus no, skip it, you don't need it. So yeah, just keeping an eye on that still.
Okay, nice. I pulled up the Genie. It suggested that I go and visit the first aid. Weird. So
Baby care center.
Exactly, the baby care center. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I think that we've seen enough in the past week to know that there's still a lot of work ahead. So Rosita says Mickey popcorn buckets are still around, by the way, and since she was just at the Magic Kingdom, that's a good thing. When you go, I'm going to need to assign you. Can you get me a popcorn bucket? And then, okay, yes. Cool. And then I'll get you on something else there.
Never asked me to pick you up anything, and I'm here all the time.
Well,
she loves pointing that out to everybody.
Here's the problem is I feel like if I do that, then I'm going to have to reciprocate with a review of some sort that I'm not ready to do. So, but anyway,
you want that popcorn bucket? I want my Brink review.
So this week on Deep in the Plus, we're going to have Coco is going to be our review with Eric Wolf. But by the way, if you did not see the review we did last week for Zombies, Eric came in full costume. So please go to unplanneddowntime.com and look at the Zombies review because he came in full costume, and check it out. And also,
we're talking about Disney Broadway tomorrow on Ink and Paint.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I need to throw that out there too.
Don't forget, Ink and Paint is on Monday nights now, and don't forget to check that out tomorrow night. And then, of course, Deep in the Plus on Tuesday, Box Down on Friday, and then Thursday night on the main channel is the last or the Halloween edition of News Tonight, so you can check that out. If you are watching again tonight, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Again, we have over 300 people watching, so if you can give us a thumbs up, it would really help us to, reach more people and share the knowledge with everyone that's out there. But we appreciate you being with us. If you're a WIGS member, we have a post show. If you don't know about WIGS, it is our WDWNT Interglobe Society. You can check out more at patreon.com/WDWNT. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you, panel, for being here. And if you are a WIGS member, we'll see you in a minute. If not, we will see you next Sunday night. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
Bye.
Dun 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 dun.